Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're still with you on today's edition of Cairo Local Time. And of course, this afternoon, I'm actually delighted to be joined by a very unique guest. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Glal Zaki, former university professor, amongst a wide option and variety of other titles, which he will tell us much more about. Mr. Glal, thank you so much for coming in this afternoon.
Thank you, Angie.
Mr. Glal, we were just speaking before air, and you didn't actually live abroad a lot. Just a couple of years, you were doing your master's.
Yeah, I spent 2 years.
And then you came back home.
2 years.
Tell me a bit about your CV, your education.
My education, I went to an English school here in Cairo during the time of the British. I'm 16 years old. I'm 76, but my brain had stopped at 16. It was during the time of the British, and we had houses, Raleigh, Grenville, Frobisher, Drake, and sister houses. I was Raleigh. Okay. And sister houses, York, Kent, Gloucester, Leicester, and all I was interested in at the English school Cairo was sports and girls, and not necessarily in that order.
Yes.
So I discovered to attract girls, I had to be very good at sports. I had most of the track and field records, 100 meters, 200, 400, 800, 1,500, won the long jump, the javelin, tennis, squash. I was head boy. I thought I was God's gift to earth, and I had 11 girlfriends who were
at the same time.
In love. Yes, we were
That's
madly
quite impressive. That's quite impressive. Let me ask you, Mr. Glal, now you traveled abroad to study your master's, but you came back.
That's right.
Lots of people that go abroad to study generally don't come back to Egypt. They manage to get a job and they continue their studies, and then they start working abroad. What drove you to come back home?
Well, actually, I was teaching at the University of North Dakota in America, and doing my I did my master's in English literature with a minor in theater arts, and I got highest honors. I wrote a play on Shakespeare. And we acted it out there, called 16th Century Nightmare, or The Unfinished Tragedy. And my mother passed. I was going to go on for a PhD, but my mother passed away, and I had to come back to Egypt. And somebody who started a big advertising agency hired me because I used to tell jokes. He wanted me to give him funny ideas to turn into television commercials.
And that kept you here, kept you working.
That's how I got into the line of advertising, and then integrated marketing communications.
Yes, we want to talk about that. What is integrated marketing communications?
It's all the disciplines and tools of, the books call them tools. For me, tools are above the line, on the line, below the line, through the line, mass media, point of sale, social media. But disciplines for me is and there are overlaps. Advertising, branding, direct marketing, relationship marketing, events management, sponsorship, direct sales, corporate social responsibility, which is still not understood here in Egypt. I started it around 12 years ago at the American Chamber of Commerce, and I did a World Summit, and unfortunately, until today, most people don't know the difference between philanthropy and CSR. So I practiced and I taught the disciplines and tools of communication.
As somebody who has taught and has been in the teaching sphere, do you see that Egypt suffers from brain drain? Do students or professionals want to leave? Or do you see that it's getting better and we're actually attracting Egyptian expats back home to help? How do you see this equation?
That's quite a difficult question. I have 3 missions in my life. One is to bring cultures together, and I say that I did something that foretold 9/11 16 years before it happened. The other one is women's empowerment, because I owe my life to my wife. That's why I'm writing this book and called Story of My Wife. And the third one is youth empowerment, because youth are the future. And we need to hang on to our youth. We need to give them hope, but we have to use different ways of doing it, by encouraging them, by creating jobs, by giving them what universities are teaching is theory, which is fine, but telling them the practice part of it, how they can, and starting entrepreneurships. I am a certified Sherry Blair Foundation mentor. She is helping women in developing countries. So with people like me, I volunteer in communication. So I've helped someone in Zimbabwe and 2 women in India. I'm also a mentor for somebody called Tony Eliumelu, who's got a foundation, and he's got $100 million to help entrepreneurs in Africa.
Wow.
And we're going to be bringing Tony here in November at a very big event I'd love to invite you guys to attend. I'm going to be a speaker too. Also something called Delta Inspire, or 138 Pyramids. My teaching assistant won the first prize in the Paris Fashion Week. She won the first prize in the New York Fashion Week 2 times. Wow. And 4 of the Oscar stars are wearing her brand.
Wow, that's
I
very
got
impressive.
her together with them, and they give them up to £1 million, and they go in as 20% partners, and they've opened up for her in Los Angeles, in France, in Egypt. So I think entrepreneurship is a great opportunity. I'm also working on something that's very important for us here in Egypt, and it's called TVET. It's technical and vocational education and training. It's funded by the Egyptian government and the European Union to the tune of 117 million euros. Now they have, and they're helping technical people like electricians, cooks, plumbers, mechanics, and these young people come out feeling inferior because they didn't make it to university. So I've come up with a concept called the seal of competence. They did a competition in Luxor and Gouna for chefs, and they got the finalists here, and they got them 2 of the top chefs called Michelin chefs from Spain. So to give them that seal of competence that will make them work anywhere in the world and get paid 10 times more than the father who doesn't want to marry his daughter to them.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you another very important question. You mentioned my life is my wife.
Story of my wife.
Yes, because your life is your wife. Why is that?
Yes, and if you go please on YouTube, I did a song for her.
Wow.
Called
How many years of marriage?
Too many. No, it's a very funny story. It's, as I say, all I was interested in was sports and girls, and then...
she must have been a unique girl.
No,
not one of the 11.
I'll tell you this, it's an incredible story because I got into the Faculty of Science. I won Egypt's championship in the 100, 200, but before that, going to university, there was a holiday. And I was telling jokes to attract girls. They said, Galal, come and work at the radio. Told more jokes, come and work at the Egyptian Gazette. They got me a trainer from America, Bill Hike, so that I could go into the Olympics. He used to tie a rope around my waist and get me to drag a tire around the track, and you can always do one more. And when I got into university, they started talking to me in Arabic, and we were not allowed to speak in Arabic in the English school. أس 2 and أس 3. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I spent 4 years, and I reached 2nd year between Bill Hike, radio, Gazette, and flirting.
Wow.
So then I told my parents, I don't want to do this. I went to another university, did economics, political science. I spent 4 years, and I reached the final year. In the 2nd year, a bombshell came into the university. All the students and the professors were crazy about her. At the time, we didn't have social media. And the 3 fastest ways of spreading news were telephone, telegram, and telegirl. So
you did that.
I went to her best friend, and I said, I'm madly in love with your friend, but please don't tell her. And then I pretended that I couldn't see her until she said, Jalal, she's Palestinian, me, I'm Galal. Yeah, imshi nimshi, let's walk. And she became my girlfriend. The last year, between the radio and the Gazette, I had over 9 absences in all my courses. So that means I get kicked out of the university.
No graduation for you.
So I told her, she said, withdraw your papers. I went to the dean of the university. I said, I want to withdraw. He said, why? I said, I have more than 9 absences in my courses. He said, don't withdraw, and we won't count those absences. My problem, the man who was giving me economics was in love with her, my girlfriend.
Oh, no.
And the man who would give me political science was his friend.
Was Indian, was
and the son of the dean was in love with her. So between the 3 of them, I got a letter saying that I was no longer at university. That's 8 years.
Wow.
I had to do my military service. To cut a long story short, I became a dental assistant in the Air Force. And she married me against her father's will. I was taking £6 a month.
Which was
as a soldier. Yeah. And she married me against her father's will. He was a famous doctor, ear, nose, and throat in Jerusalem, and he had removed King Hussein's tonsils with Jordan, and he disowned her because she married somebody who didn't have a degree. She was saying the story to the head of the Gazette, and he said, well, Galal's English is very good, why doesn't he go into English literature? To do that, over 8 years had passed since I did my GCE. I would have had to redo the GCE unless I could get a certificate that I was mentally disturbed and that I recovered. So my brother had a friend in Behman's hospital. He got me this letter, and
so she not only did she marry a non-tertiarily
anyway,
educated.
To cut a long story short, I went into doing it was English literature. I spent another 4 years. Last year I wrote a play on Shakespeare. We had a professor from America said, Galal, come and teach at university and do your PhD. We'll give you scholarship, and that's how I got into doing.
And she stood by you through everything.
But yeah, and I mean, I can't believe that she married me when I was like that.
But look at you today.
Yeah.
The role of women in society, you mentioned that is very important. Youth empowerment, women's empowerment.
I owe my life to my wife and my mother. I had a company, I came down with 20 commandments. And it's everything I learned from my mother and life.
Tell me, Galil, Mr. Galil, rather.
Gil. I'm 16 years old.
Yes, of course. Do you see, you've been taught by lots of different nationalities, British, American, Indian. I picked up an Indian accent somewhere.
No, because I like to imitate accents.
Okay, but I thought there was an Indian somewhere. Do you think that integration helped develop the character that you are today?
Yes, definitely. We've traveled. My wife loves to travel, and she's taken us, and I have my 2 daughters. They consider me as their naughty younger brother. They're incredible, and I consider them like my sisters. And one of them is an incredible, she sings in 16 languages. Wow. And she's called the voice of love and peace. And she's also called the human trumpet. Jay Leno couldn't believe it. She does the sound of a trumpet with her mouth. Wow. And she got that because of traveling all over. She sings in Greek and Spanish and Arabic, different Lebanese, Indian.
Different Arabic accents as well.
Different, yeah.
So my question to you, do you see that integration? Do you see Egypt would benefit from more integration, more Egyptian expats that have lived abroad a lot of their lives coming back home?
Yes, I would love it. I would love it if we could, and we have the opportunity of getting, we have Egyptian expatriate remittances are one of the top 3 foreign currency earners with the Suez Canal and expatriates. I would love to do a huge event and get all Egyptians to come. Not when I say all, I mean to encourage them. If we get our national carrier to give them 50% off, and we hold an incredible event of Together for the Future of Egypt. I think this would be an incredible step forward, because times have changed. I say the future is not the way it used to be. Young people don't wear watches, they don't watch television, they don't read newspapers, everything is on their cell phone and their iPad. In fact, they came up with a word for what most people, if you go anywhere, they're doing this. And in America, they do it over 550 times per day.
Wow.
So in Australia, they got a big advertising agency and linguists, and they came up with the word phubbing. P-H-U-B-B-I-N-G. The PH is the phone, the ubbing is snubbing. When I snub someone, I disregard them.
Because you're on your phone.
That's what's happening if you go anywhere, anywhere in the world. People are doing that. So yes, I would love it for Egyptians to come, and they love Egypt and they miss Egypt. When I was there for 2 years in the States, I missed Egypt, even with all the problems we had. You know, I look at my teaching assistant who won the first prize. I wanted to do a film for her and to say, take us to the moon like an Egyptian. El-Baz.
Yes.
Save a heart like an Egyptian. Ya'ub, Magdi Ya'ub. Play football like an Egyptian. Mo Salah has changed people in England and everywhere in the world. dive like an Egyptian. We have Ahmad Gabr,
Yes.
2-time Guinness record holder.
Breaker, yes.
Play squash like an Egyptian, dress like an Egyptian. So, I mean, and I look at this, how can Mo Salah do that when he's coming from a, you know, a modest family? I find out, yes, in Egypt we have power cuts, we have water shortage, we have a million problems, and we're getting through them and we're smiling. So if you see the way we drive, we call it Sawat al-Booz, the tip of, you know, the which tip it goes in.
First.
Of course Mo Salah is going to dribble and get the goal in seconds. And then all this happened to us and we're still smiling. In America, the lights went out in New York one day, and they made a whole film called The Day the Lights Went Out. What is this?
It's quite a monumental
Egyptians are used to it
event
and they
for
smile.
them.
They take it with a smile.
Mr. Galal, actually,
Gilgit.
the Ministry of Immigration is keen on keeping in touch with Egyptians abroad. They've done several events, especially with the youth. Egyptian youth that live abroad are they don't have that nostalgia, memories, history. They don't have a lot of that, keeping them in touch or linking them back home. So the Ministry of Immigration has tried to get in touch with them, tell them to come visit Egypt. Lots of campaigns to drive them to come visit, come back home, see back home how it is, etc. Do you see such initiatives as working to get?
Our president has started incredible initiatives like the youth
conferences,
events, in Guna and
Sharm
el-Sheikh and
there's
all
been
that.
8 of them,
Yes, but our national carrier has to give them a special deal. Then they can come and stay at my house to save tickets at the.
This is an open invitation to everyone.
It's an open.
It's an open invitation.
I'm inviting the world champion Toastmaster. That's the champion of the world in public speaking.
Yes.
He's from Saudi Arabia. His name is Mohammed Qahtani. Incredible. He's coming over. We're inviting him here for a big event. So, yes, we can. They will have relatives they can stay with. Just give us the free, not free. I mean, a good rate for a big event, and we are going to change history.
Very positive outlook. Where do you see Egypt in the next 5 to 10 years? With the economic progress, the development, the spirit of the youth.
Although they say a pessimist is an optimist who has had experience, I'm still an optimist. My mother used to tell me, Galal, behind the blackest cloud is a clear blue sky. She used to tell me, I am only one, but I am one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. So each one of us starts with his own. I'm going to keep the street in my house clean, in front of my house. I'll adopt the street.
We all have a role to play.
Yeah, I have out of my 20 commandments, think positive is one of them.
Indeed. On that very positive note, I'd like to thank you very much, sir, Mr. Glal Zaki, former university professor, and our guest, most importantly, for this afternoon. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for your time and for your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for today. We do hope you have enjoyed our episode. You're in the company of myself, Angie Meher. Many thanks for watching.